In this video, I'm going to go through bullet points 4, 5 and 6, which is the start and finish time of each task, the allocation of tasks to a minimum number of supervisors, and a recommendation for a week when the manager can visit the site and see at least 3 different tasks in action. So I'll do these 3 here. So first of all, we're looking at the start and finish time for each task. Now we've done a start and finish time as the earliest start and earliest finish, but we're also going to look at the latest start and the latest finish that we can do while completing the whole project on time. So we start with our end task, which is tenants moving in. For this to finish in the minimum amount of time, we have to finish the last task on time. So it has to be finished by week 26, and so its latest start has to be week 24, at the end of week 24, because it takes 2 weeks to finish. Now, if this starts at week 24, the other tasks before it have to finish at the end of week 24. So that means that G has to finish at the end of week 24 and H has to finish at 24 as well. Oops, I'm missing the numbers from there. I wonder where they went. We had, this was 5 and 9. This was 9 and 21. Now with G, if this one finishes at 24, it has to start at 10 because it takes 14 weeks to do it. So finishing at 24, starting at the end of 10. This one finishes at 24 minus 12 makes 12. That's when it has to start. We take a step back. Going back to task F, this one has to start at the end of week 10, so this one has to finish by the end of week 10, and so does this one, because those are the 2 tasks that come before G. So they both have to finish by the end of week 10, which means F has to start by week 6, by the end of week 6, and D has to start by the end of week 7. Okay, take a step back. Before F, we have task E. So if F starts at the end of week 6, E has to finish at the end of week 6 so that F can start. So that 6 has to start by the end of week 5. For H, these 2 tasks come before it. So if H is starting at the end of week 12, these ones have to finish at the latest by the end of week 12. Which means C has to start by the end of week 8 and B has to start by the end of week 6 because C takes 4 weeks and B takes 6 weeks. For this one, for A, it has 3 tasks going after it. So that means that it has to finish by the time all of these start. So this latest start at week 8, this latest start is at week 7, and this latest start is at week 5. This has to end before all of these start. So that means it has to end before week 5, before the end of week 5. And means we would have to start by, at the beginning. From as soon as the project gets started, A has to begin immediately. So with that, we're now going to use that to draw a Gantt chart, which is a project plan for who's going to supervise what and in what order. So I've got this over here. This is the same network. Now we're going to draw the Gantt chart. So we start off we've got week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. That shows the duration of the whole project from week 0, or from starting up to week 26. So this is the week. Our critical path has to start at the beginning and finish at week 26, so we're going to put that in first. So we put a big rectangle in to show our critical path. We've got task A starting 0, finishing at the end of week 5. That's task A. Task E starting at the end of week 5, finishing at the end of week 6. We've got task F starting at the end of week 6, finishing at the end of week 10. That's task F. And then task G, end of week 10 to end of week 24. And then we've got task I, end of week 24 to end of week 26. Since a supervisor can only supervise one task at a time, we need to have a full-time person watching all of these tasks, so that the duration of that project, you have a supervisor just watching the critical path. So that's supervisor 1. Now we have to look at our other tasks. These ones all have some wiggle room, some leeway. It's also called float. So this has 6 weeks of float. This has 3, this has 3, this has 2. So altogether, we have 14 weeks of float. So we've got task B, starting here, finishing at the end of week 6. That's task B. But it could also go right up until the end of week 12. We have task C that could start at the end of week 5 and go to the end of week 9. But it could go all the way up to the end of week 12. We have task D that starts at the end of week 5, could start at the end of week 5 and go to the end of week 8. But this can go up to the end of week 10. And then we've got task H, which could start at the end of week 9 and go to the end of week 21, which is there. But it could go all the way up to the end of week 24. So that's where they could be placed, and we're going to move them up so that we can maximize the time spent by our supervisors, because it costs to pay people to be on site or working, and so we want them to be used as efficiently as possible. So we want them to be working on a project, supervising a task, in order to know that we're using their time well. So we're going to start with task. I'm going to copy this over so that you can see where this all comes from. Copy, paste. Okay, so same idea. We're going to start moving things around. So we're going to put task C after task B, because C can shift over 1 and now go here and then move up to this part here, so that a supervisor can watch B and then immediately supervise C. So we're going to take this, erase this, because we're going to have C straight after it. That now goes there. Now D can't be moved up to here, because D has to finish by this point here. So I'm just going to take D and move it up to there. Now, we can take H, we can shift it over 1, and this will be shifted over to here. And then we can move it up to there, so it's seen straight after, so it's supervised straight after task C. So I'll take H, move that up to here. And then we've got a little bit of wiggle room in here. And you can see this has taken one supervisor for this one, and then one supervisor for the second lot. So they're supervising all of these one after the other. And then they've got a little bit of break here. And then we've got the last supervisor here, supervisor 3. Now supervisor 3 only has to work for this amount of time, but you can see that we've maximized it. Rather than using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 supervisors, we've now made it so that we're only using 3 supervisors and it saved a bunch of money. So that's what we put in here. Now I'm going to type it out because it's easier for me. The minimum number of supervisors is 3. Okay. Now our last question is a recommendation of a week when the manager can visit the site and see at least 3 different tasks in action. If we look at this, here in week 1, there's only 2, 3, 4, and 5, there's only 2, but in week 6, 7, 8, and possibly 9 and 10, you can see 3 tasks in action depending on when D finishes. But all of them onwards, you can only see 2 tasks in action. So that's what we're going to write here. Don't know why it does that. Okay. If the manager is to see 3 jobs in the process, he would have to visit from weeks 6 to 10, depending on the scheduling of task D. Done. Okay. That is those 3 bullet points. I'll discuss the next 2 bullet points in the next video. Thank you for watching.